Hello, my name is Snowlight. This is my Warcraft University, a YouTube series intended to give new and mid-tier players simple concepts towards playing World of Warcraft at a higher level. In this video we will discuss talents, choosing your abilities. First of all, welcome everyone to the first video of the Dragonflight expansion. As of the making of this episode, the pre-patch has been applied to the game, which means we are now living in the world of new talent trees and other foundational changes, leading into the expansion's formal release. So it counts. Now that things are quite significantly different, we've got quite a few things to cover, so stay with me while we blaze through some of the changes and implications. This first point got a lot more complicated with the Dragonflight changes. In recent expansions, your core spells were mostly defined by your spec choice, with a few options you could choose in the limited talent system. Well, the talent system overhaul has significantly changed this, and many of the basic abilities previously considered core to your character must now be selected, or not, based on your talent tree and decisions. If you're new, this may seem intimidating or overwhelming, but when you break it down into single decisions, and we'll take a look at this later in the video, it allows you to focus your character into a playstyle that matches you, the player. I have enjoyed very much discussing different options in the Priest talent tree with some of my guildmates, discussing taking or dismissing certain abilities, and look forward to seeing how these different abilities or trees perform in the hands of new and experienced players alike. Either way, the first step to performing in your role is to know what abilities are available to you. And with the updates, you now will be able to make meaningful decisions in this area. Speaking of meaningful decisions, let's take a look at some different ways to look at your options in the talent tree. As you review the talent trees and other abilities, you will see that some abilities directly contribute to what you're supposed to do, meaning dealing damage for DPS characters, healing and shielding for healing classes, and damage mitigation, self-heals, and threat generation for tanks. Those abilities aligned with your role are your core abilities. You'll want to focus your decisions on your core abilities first. After that, circle back to your utility abilities, or any abilities that provide a secondary effect not directly linked with your role. There is a lot of variance in what utility abilities can do for you, so there's going to be some variance based on your preference as a player. More about this later. The next factor to consider is active versus passive abilities. An active ability must be activated by the player via keyboard shortcuts or mouse clicks. A passive ability will trigger automatically when you use the actives, or when some other condition is met, or will provide a direct boost or effect on top of your active abilities. This is important to consider while you select your talents, because you'll need to keep in mind how each ability, both active and passive, will affect your playstyle. For newer players, I highly recommend focusing on the active abilities you are most comfortable with, and boost them as much as possible with passive abilities. As you gain a little more experience, then look into branching out into other options. Keeping those concepts in mind, let's do a quick demo using the Holy Priest tree as our foundation. Holy Priests are intended to be a healing class, so core abilities are going to focus on direct heals, shields, and other abilities that will help keep your party alive. So with that foundation, let's move into a short demonstration with live, unscripted commentary, courtesy of your favorite guest on this channel, Future Me. Alright, here we go. We've got the game open now. I see the 3 specs that are available to me here. Most classes have 3. Each of the specs has the spec name, spec role, little detail, and some sample abilities in here. Now instead of doing this in the client here, I'm actually going to open up the page on Wowhead. I already have it open actually, and we're going to take a look at things here. Now, with the new talent tree, it's split by Priest, General, and then your specific to your spec. And you can see that matches here, the Priest generic ones, and then the one specific for Holy. So we're going to come back here now. gonna focus on first on this side because this is going to be most of the core of what you're doing is going to be in the holy tree with some help coming from the priest tree. So this is going to be the core of our healing spec. Holy Word Serenity is core, provides a instant heal for a lot of health. Now, as I'm looking at it, we've sort of got it broken into sections where if I go down the left side, it's going to be AoE heals like Holy Word Sanctify, Circle of Healing, Prayer of Healing is somewhere in here. There it is. Things like that. And then a lot of talents that buff up those AoEs until we kind of get down towards the bottom. If I go to the right side, we're looking at Chastise. We're probably looking at Holy Fire somewhere over there, unless it gave it to me already. Let's see what we have in our base spells. Oh, I didn't. Here. You must have been. So right now it has it because I already spent the talents once. And this is the spec that I had out. It already has those spells in here, but let's go back over here. So Censure, this increases the power of Holy Word Chastise, makes it a 4-second stun. So on and so forth. Benediction, we'll come back to that. So anyway, as I'm looking at this, I'm going to start with Serenity. Guardian Spirit, I consider to be core, even though it does not directly give you heals. It does make you heal for longer. Here I've got the option of Guardian Angel or Guardians of the Light. Let's see, what did I choose for this? This one... I would probably go with Guardian Angel, just because I like that effect better. Now we're looking at... This is a passive talent, Cosmic Ripple. When Holy Word Serenity or Holy Word Sanctify finish their cooldown, you emit a burst of light that heals up to 5 injured targets. That is a passive ability that will trigger when that condition is met, and I very much like that. We've already got Holy Word Serenity, so Sanctify makes sense to have as well. Now, side note, I don't generally take Prayer of Healing and use that too much, but I'm going to take it anyway here to get to Sanctify. Because Sanctify is a very powerful spell and very much worth it. Then I'm looking at Circle of Healing, absolute must. I'm looking at, what is this one? Prayer of Healing versus Holy Word Sanctify. So, again, I don't terribly like Prayer of Healing, so I'm going to push this one over to the Sanctify side. Holy Word Sanctify increases the healing done by... Dude, I don't really like that either. Maybe we'll hold on that. And so, like, as we're continuing down, you can see now I've got a lock. I need to spend one more talent before I can do this. I'm not ready to take Chastise side of the tree yet, so I'll probably take this. What do we got here? Healing on allies with your renew is increased by 6. Both of these are great options, so I'll take Afterlife. Yeah, I'll take this one for now. It opens up kind of a couple options over here. So now I'm looking at what stuff down here, and I'm eventually going to start looking at which of these at the bottom are the most important. The Restitution ability, after Spirit of Redemption expires, you'll revive it up to 100% health. That one is super, super powerful. As much as the Miracle Worker spell is nice, I think Restitution is a must-have. And so I'm going to start to work my way down to this side of the tree so I can get over to there. I don't think I take this, either of these. When you use a Holy Word spell, you have a chance to summon an image of the Naru. That's a direct passive increase to your healing output. Divine Word, the effectiveness of your next Holy Word spell, etc., etc. Maybe I'll come back to this, but that's a lot of complicated text that I don't want to put in the video. And then here, the Lightwell, Return of the Lightwell, yay! It's not one that forces the users to click on it like it used to be back in Vanilla and BC, but it looks like it's a pretty powerful one as well. So I would probably aim for Restitution and Lightwell as I look to go further down here. So probably take cast time of prayer healing. Your new healing increases healing done by circle. I like that. Probably take circle healing as 1. Increases the crit strike chance of flash heal and heal by 8. It's up to 15. Though this is a passive that directly improves those 2 spells, so I will take that for now, and that kind of gets me set up so I'm ready to come down here. Either here, 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 or here, 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 here. And that would get me down to there. Then I would look to say, okay, how do I get over to this side? Well, a couple options here. I can either kind of go through the Prayer of the Virtuous, Prayer of Mending jumps an additional time, or Prismatic Echoes increases the healing done by your Mastery Echo of Light. This one is a direct heal increase, but then what does that come after that? Renew instantly heals your target for 10% of its total periodic effects, etc. Increases healing done by Renew. Or Prayer of Mending, not to consume. So basically, if we come down this side, we're buffing up Prayer of Mending, which is a good spell. But this kind of increases the number of jumps it takes, both of these. And after Prayer of Mending heals 100 time, gain buff Apotheosis, which is a different talent from somewhere, which we could find later. I would probably come this way, Empowered Renew into Smite and Holy Nova. I don't know. I would have to come back and think of that. Let me see. So I think when I actually built out this talent tree, I went the Prayer of Mending route, just because I don't plan on using Holy Fire for my spec. So yeah, you can see here now that I've fleshed it out. Kind of went down that Prayer of Mending. Got that Symbol of Hope. Get some mana regen for everybody. That's pretty valuable. And then down here into the Light Well. So that's kind of the thought process over here. You can see I didn't take Chastise or Holy Fire or this one, so on and so forth, just because in Holy Spec I intend to focus heavily on the healing side and less on the DPS side. So now coming over here to look at the Priest Tree, it automatically gives you Renew and Prayer of Mending because you are Holy Spec. If you were a Shadow Spec, it would force you to have Shadow Fiend and maybe a Shadow or Death. Discipline Spec, I'm not sure. But then similarly here, you could have the option again to spec into some of these damage sides and spec into like Vampiric Embrace even as a Holy Priest. That's kind of cool. It hasn't happened before. And just get a little bit more of DPS output, even looking at possibly doing Mind Games last an additional 2 seconds. Get that Mind Games going on. But I, again, focused heavily on the Holy side. And some of the things that I chose, this is going to talk more about the utility side of things and not so much on the core spells. I chose to take things like Angelic Feather, Leap of Faith, Move with Grace, which improves Leap of Faith, Body and Soul, which improves movement speed for people along with Feather. You didn't used to be able to have both of those at the same time. And then PI and Twin Suns. Twin Suns is not a requirement if you take PI, but it does boost 2 people, you and an other, encouraging you to cast on somebody else. As opposed to things like, let me see if I can find them, Desperate Prayer. Increases the max health gains from Desperate Prayer. If you need a little more survivability, it's better to have this than to have, let's say, Twin Suns. Twins of the Sun. Or Move with Grace. Desperate Prayer is going to help you stay alive longer. Similar with Angelic Bulwark, although that is kind of a end tier. When attack brings you low, you gain an absorption shield. Those are more survivable things, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I got a few talent points I still have to spend, and I'm still pondering where I want to put those. Something like Mass Dispel and Improved Mass Dispel, well, that'll help your raid team more if you're in a raid situation, but probably not so much in the survivability. Here's another one. This Translucent Image passive. Fade reduces damage you take by 10%. Well, that helps you with survivability. If you have trouble with survivability, you can then use Fade and stay alive longer. Vampiric Embrace would help you to do some self-healing. Now, the one I did take that kind of fits in this throne is the binding heals, because this way when I'm using heal or flash heal, I will also get heals myself. In my mind, that negates the need for Desperate Prayer and Angelic Bulwark and the Fade spell, because I'm not going to be taking as much damage. I think there's a couple others that are kind of in that similar vein. Of course, Vampiric Embrace. And so when I was comparing my tree to something that a newer player would use, he didn't have all of these, and I was like, well, why don't you have all these? Well, he's like, well, I'm just trying to stay alive. So yeah, but having the Bulwark and Desperate Prayer, definitely more valuable there. Another one, Shadow Fiend. You could pick this up at some point, and that would give you a way to get some mana back. That's pretty valuable. I might end up taking it at some point. But then that doesn't really chain anything down further unless you're Shadow Spec, because like Shadow Word Death again is offensive only, and Shadow Word Fiend will give you that mana. So I might end up taking that, but we'll see how it goes. Even got some options over here for CCs. So that's kind of how I game plan it. Is I look at what are the big things I want to get, what are core to my build, and then start moving those directions. You can see that when I was over here. Wasn't too keen on the Prayer of Many Sides, but it gets to Restitution, which is a huge spell, and that's kind of the way you want to go. I will show you one other thing. Alright, and one other point I wanted to show you is that some talent trees are a little less forgiving and a little more linear, like the Guardian tree. You can see here the build that I'm working on live. The Wowhead version seems to have some discontinued nodes over here that don't connect properly, but we'll figure those out later. But with Guardian Druid, you start here and with Frenzied Regen and Thrash, and basically you're going to follow this path down this way to about here or even here, and then end up with the options of going Heart of the Wild, which allows you to Cat Weave or Balance Weave, or come down here to store damage that you deal, and then use that to use that to empower yourself somehow. So this one, it's kind of very much more linear than what you were just looking at with Priest. Obviously the Resto tree kind of follows this path, the Balance tree kind of follows this path, and then the Cat tree stays on the left side. But then all the customization for this kind of even though it's kind of linear on this side, all the customization really comes over on the Guardian side. So it's a little bit of a different mentality for when I was building out my Guardian Druid versus when I was working on the Priest. Every talent tree is going to be a bit different, and we'll see if we can in the future do maybe a mini-series on talent trees and specs and interesting variations. But for now, that's where we're going to leave it with the talents and the abilities. So I hope that this was informative and gave you kind of an idea for how to get started on your talent trees. One other thing I want to add is that you will find the optimal or the best talent tree options in places like Wowhead or Icy Veins. That's okay if you don't do that, because those are optimized for the top like 1% of players. I want you to choose talents that you are comfortable with before you move into looking at optimization. Start with where you're comfortable, and then once you get a little bit better at the game, a little bit more experienced and practice under your belt, then look at seeing what is considered optimal and why it differs from what you're doing, and use that kind of as your mentality going into the next expansion. So I'm going to throw it now back to my former self. And with that, you should have a good place to start choosing your talents and abilities. If you found this useful, please leave a like on the video or a comment with any questions or ideas so we can continue to work on this series. The subscribe button and the bell are there so you can see when new videos come out if that is your desire. As always, please be positive in your guilds and help make WoW a fun place for everyone to play. Goodbye for now.